so much, Lindsay. Welcome everyone to the University of Miami information session tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. On the line today, you'll have myself. I'm a senior enrollment advisor here at the University of Miami, as well as we have a student, or excuse me, a former student online as well in Leroy Hollins, who was a student in our Master's in Sport Administration program. It's more of a Q&A session tonight, so we're going to take some very important questions and pitch those questions over to Leroy to give us a little bit more of an in-depth view of how the student experience is here at UOnline. For those of you on the line, your lines are muted, but if you do have a question, you can message that question in, and we'll get those questions answered for you right away. So without further ado, again, I'm Jonathan. Leroy, do you want to take a second to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Leroy Hollins. I started the program spring 2016. I actually graduated May 11th, 2017, and I'm excited to be here. I'm the IT director for the Louisiana Racing Commission, horse racing, and I also run the largest youth sports program in the state of Louisiana.
Very impressive. Thank you so much, Leroy. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So today we'll be discussing the UOnline learning experience. So a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the motivation for everyone on the call to continue their education and to obtain an advanced degree. We're going to talk about the collaborative learning model for online students. Leroy will give us an opportunity to hear about his experiences with the faculty members, his classmates, the actual theory of taking online learning and putting it into practice, online study tips. There will not be a classroom demonstration tonight, but after the study tips, we will go into a Q&A session. All right. So, so the question is, what is the motivation to pursue a master's degree? Leroy, in your case, when you decided to go back to school, what motivated you to do so?
Because really, when I started in sports, my motivation to start doing sports, I've been doing volunteer sports for going on 20 years now, and I started because my son, I wanted to be the best dad in the world. So I started doing the sports and started doing it on a lower level, started moving into some of the high school levels, and wanted to actually take my education to the next level. I learned a bunch of concepts on trial and error wise, but I wanted to be able to get a degree, or actually to get an education where I were able to put concepts to some of the things that I was doing. And there was no place like the University of Miami to learn sports concepts, the administration of sports, the vast history that University of Miami has had in the sporting world from a collegiate standpoint was just a perfect place for me.
Perfect. And everything that you just said is ideal. These are some of the things we look for students to actually put in their personal statement or their motivational statement in their application, because we want to get a feel for who the student is. We want to know, what did you study in your undergrad? Why did you choose that particular program through your undergrad? Did you follow through and pursue the career in the thing that you actually studied from your undergrad? And then, what is your motivation, like Leroy just said, for continuing your education, and how this program will help you obtain that goal, or how the University of Miami can help you get there. So thank you so much, Leroy, for sharing that information. And now you mentioned there's no place like the University of Miami. Why did you choose to study online?
I had a big fear online. I never had anything online. My undergraduate was at Southern University in mathematics, so of course you couldn't do mathematics or in computer science online. But I was busy. I'm the IT director of Louisiana, a full-time job, IT director of Louisiana Racing Commission. I always say this: I have two jobs, one for my blessing and one for my benefits. benefits job was the IT director job with Louisiana Racing Commission, but my blessings job was with Louisiana Youth Sports Network, where that was a full-time job as well. So my time was very limited in that aspect of it. I probably slept maybe 6 hours out of a day, out of a night. So I had limited time just on the regular lifestyle. So I knew I couldn't go to University of Miami and take off 2 years and actually take care of my family from that aspect. So the online studying was great for me because I was able to tailor it around in between doing real work, in between doing my volunteer work, to be able to get some study time in and go online.
Perfect, perfect. So
I guess the flexibility. It was just so flexible.
flexibility. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's ideal. That's one of the things we pride ourselves on. The way all of our online programs are structured is that you'll take one class every 7 weeks until you complete your program. So it was designed with the idea in place that, you know, a lot of the students are advanced students. They're mid-career professionals, and they will need flexibility. So online study does create that flexibility. You're not restricted to geography, and you're not restricted to time. This is an asynchronous program, so you can log in at your own pace. There's a great deal of flexibility in that sense. But while there is a great deal of flexibility, you do have a syllabus with specific timelines you will have to adhere to. So Leroy, in your case, did you find any difficulty managing your time in terms of the deadlines that were prescribed on your syllabus?
No, but that's the key to it, is time management. In any online studying that you're doing, the time management side of it, if you really are committed to doing that, you actually have to sit down and buckle down and say, I'm not going to a class on every Tuesday and Thursday or Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I know that I have to set some time aside. I normally use Sunday. Sunday afternoon was my time I set aside where I maximized the most time, free time I had to be able to do my studies because of some of the work, some of the assignments that were due on a regular, within that 7 weeks. I knew every Tuesday and every Saturday I had an assignment to do. So I just scheduled my time around that Tuesday and that Saturday assignment that I had to do, and then stole time wherever I could.
Got it. Okay, great. Good information. Now, Leroy, can you tell us a little bit about your interaction in the classroom, whether it be with your professor or with classmates?
The great thing about the class, every one of the classes that you go to, there's a discussion post that you're going to have to do within the first part of the week. Outside of the first week where you introduce yourself to all your classmates, but there's an actual post where you have to do discussions. You make a post and then you go in and have to comment on the rest of on 2 of your classmates. So that gave me a great opportunity to be able to understand some of my classmates based on the assignment, what I thought the assignment was, and then being able to read their responses and kind of picking their brains and seeing how they were thinking towards the assignment gave me a lot of insight on what type of classmates I had and how they were thinking, where they were coming from. Our average class, my class group started, we probably had about 12 people in our class. So now we've gone through the whole program together. Our average class age was around 35 years old. So we had a mixture of younger kids, younger guys and ladies, and then some older classmates that actually balance it out. So to see the different interaction on the different topics post based on wherever class we're in was a great outlook, and it was a learning tool because I got to learn some things from their post that I didn't see or I didn't see inside my post or my interaction with what I was determining the post was supposed to be.
Okay, perfect. That's good information. Actually, one of the questions that we just got was, are you always in class with the same people?
Pretty much you are. Yeah, we've actually had our class started off, like I said, with about 12. We're probably down to 11. I believe one guy dropped out and said he was going to start the program later, but the same people that I started with are the same people that I've worked with. The great thing about it is on some of the group assignments, we've had opportunity to work with different people, but there were several classes that I had the same group partner. So we kind of learned each other and knew how we worked and how we how our expectations were, our time frame, our time especially, being in different time zones. I had a partner that was in California and I'm in Louisiana, so was nighttime for me is still daytime for him, and what was morning for me was night for him. So we worked around that, but we became friends. That's the one thing about it is the interaction, and I tell people this all the time. I interacted more in this online degree program that I've been through than when I was in my bachelor's degree with students. And the bachelor side of it, I would go sit in class and I'll leave out. I really didn't interact. But here it gave me a great opportunity to be able to learn from the other students and interact with them.
Okay, great. And another question just came in. Are you still in touch with your classmates now?
Yeah, we started in the beginning in our first class, we started a group. So we text on any little thing. We talked about the championship game just the other night. We talk about off-the-wall stuff, not just class stuff. We talk about all different things that's going on in society or whatever the hot topic is going on. You'll see a group me come across. Now, again, the crazy thing about it is some of the time frames, because when I'm still asleep at 7 o'clock in the morning, somebody's texting something within my class. One of the classmates that are up over on the East Coast, so I have to tell them, hey, you know I'm still asleep. And I know the California guys or West Coast guys are still knocked out. But yeah, no, we interact through GroupMe as, like I said, as friends.
Wow, that's amazing. That's impressive to hear that you actually, like you said earlier, you interact more with these individuals than you did in your undergrad. So that's really impressive, considering you guys are not geographically in the same place. That's really good to hear. All right, so let's keep on progressing through. This is one of the major parts of the decision-making process for students. They want to know, about the availability of the faculty members, how you interact, how they interact with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience on that level?
Social media is one of the greatest things in the world. Our faculty, depending on the class, the faculty member that's teaching you is actually that expert in that field. And the way I tested it out and the way I really found out is I found them on social media. And you can see that their posts on their social media sites were based on the stuff that they were teaching in the class. Professor Wendy Dees is one of the professors, and she's great with marketing. But if you go over to her social media sites, she's talking about marketing there as well. So it's not just something that she's talking about in the class, or it's not just a face that's assigned to the class. It's actually a person that's an expert in that field. And that was the great thing about it that I saw about it, that every class that I went to, regardless of what the topic may be, whether it's sponsorship, marketing, law, anything, ruling sports is one of the professors' tag names, and she talks about law all the time, sports law. So the experts that you're getting, the faculty that you're getting that's being portrayed in the classroom is not just the classroom persona. That's that person outside of class. So that made me feel a whole lot better about the person. It wasn't just a grad student that was doing it. It was actually that professor. And within class, there are class hours, there's conference hours, the same as if you were on the campus and they said, okay, my office hours were this time to this time. You have that same type of office hour access, whether it's through email, telephone, chat, whatever it may be. And they also follow you on social media if you follow them. So the interaction is there just as much as you're interacting with your fellow classmates.
That's good to hear. Actually, you actually answered the question the way it was written, what have you learned from the faculty? And it seems like the same things that they cover in class, they not just practice it as a professor, but they practice it professionally. It's the same thing they discuss, in their personal life or in their social media feed. So that's really good to know. Now, what about your one-on-one interaction with faculty? Was that easy? What was your experience with that?
No, they were open. It was open arms. What made it a whole lot better for me is that we actually had the sports conference that the university does every spring. So I was able to come to the sports conference and then actually meet all the faculty members face to face. So that even gave even more validity to it, because now I place a face, not just a on-screen face, but a real face to it, and the personalities are the same as they are online in person. They were real welcome, open, actually have several personal cell phone numbers if you ever need anything, any questions. They were real open to help you to be a better student, and really real open to make you feel comfortable that you're not just an online student, but you are actually a student of the University of Miami. And that was one of the big things that they really pushed, that you're no less than any student that's walking on the campus of the University of Miami. And my whole experience with the faculty is that I felt like I was walking on the campus. In interaction, as in talking, as in answering questions, and availability.
Wow. Now, you mentioned the sports conference. A couple of the attendees on this call are going to be sport admin students. Could you tell us about your experience with the sport conference?
The sports conference was a great opportunity to come in and not only just be on the University of Miami campus, that's one reward to it, and then also being able to meet the faculty member was the other award. But the opportunity to be able to network with industry leaders. The last conference that we had, A-Rod was one of the guest speakers, and it was
Wow.
a great thing to hear him, to hear the rise and fall of A-Rod, but to hear it from a personal aspect. And then also to hear the athletic directors from different colleges. I met the University of Delaware's athletic director, who was real personable and sit down and talk to you. And it wasn't just a panel of people there and then they shuffled them off away. Once the panel was over with, the interaction between the panels and the participants in the conference was really a networking experience. For those 2 days, you got actual firsthand advice from the hires of sportsmen, and then the movers and shakers in the industry already. So those people who are looking for new sports admin personnel, as well as those who are working in the industry and making decisions on a higher level, participates in the conference and participate on the level of, I'm not hiring you, but you are an attendee and you're a mentor. I'm a mentor and you're a mentee type mentality. And that was the great thing about both years of the conference that I attended.
Wow, that's amazing. That's one of the things we try to inform students about the sport conference and encourage everyone to take advantage of it, because it's open to everyone. We actually try to get a few applicants, as a matter of fact, right around the springtime to see if they're available to attend the conference and take advantage of it, because they want to see, what is it like? How do you actually break into these into the arena? So that's really good to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now let's see. Let's see if we can. Actually, I do have a question here. Just bear with me for 1 second. Okay, so another question that just came in, and maybe this person maybe just logged in, but Leroy, you can probably speak best to this. It just says, first of all, congratulations on graduating, and how close did you get with your classmates during the last 2 years, of your career here at the University of Miami?
As close as classmates really can get. Like I said, because of the interaction and a lot of the discussion topics, and then the projects in the various classes that we had, it creates, and instead of that volunteer segregation that you normally have in a regular classroom where you separate to one area and other classroom, it kind of forces you to interact more in the online environment. So then you become more personable with a person. You start understanding, because time is a restriction. So you understand why this person is not able to study at this certain time, or why this person, because you start finding out what they do in their real lives, what's their jobs, their family structures. Even with like I said, the sports conference, some of my classmates, actually, we came down and we planned to meet during the sports conference to get together and be able to see each other face to face and hang out after the conference. Yeah, we do get a chance to hang out in Miami after the conference as well. So we were able to do that. And once you start seeing that you guys are in the classroom and fighting for a common goal, and that's to graduate and move on to your career, a bigger, better career in the sports admin industry, you start having like philosophies. You start having friends that you can lean on, as far as if you need anything, or if you need any kind of instructions on better definition of the problem, or even experience. I have 2 classmates that are actually veterans. So to hear their experience involved in the classroom and what they're looking for. And like we were saying, like Jonathan said in the beginning, I started off with a degree in mathematics. So no, I'm right now not using that bachelor's degree to the point where I really should have been or wanted to be. So seeing people changing their careers in midstream, like I am, and most of the people in my classroom changing in midstreams, you get to be more personal. You get to see what a person really thinks and feels when you're talking to them on that level.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that great information. All right. Now, in terms of one of the key things about online learning, it's the collaborative learning piece of the classroom. So a lot of times, if we all think back to when we were in undergrad, not taking any credit away from the brick and mortar structure of our undergrad days, but times are changing, technology is changing, and the speed and ease of which we need information is changing as well. So in terms of online learning, one of the emphases about online learning is not that you only learn from your professor, but you also learn from your classmates, in a collaborative sense. So what we try to do here at the University of Miami is we're definitely very, I guess, strict in terms of our selection process. We want to make sure we pick the right candidates to be in the program because, like I said, we want to make sure not only that you're receiving a great education, but you are also able to contribute to the enrichment of your peer as well. So in terms of learning from your classmates, Leroy, can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, no, there are several assignments in several different classes where you actually have to bring out your real world experience that you've had. It's not just you grabbing things. We're not just talking about the Warriors because the Warriors out there. The class assignments and some of the actual projects really rely on things that you've learned from your experience as either a sport admin or from a volunteer level, or even if you had some experience in there, and even from your regular job experience that actually can translate over to the sport industry and bring that into the class assignments. And that's where you really start learning. There was a classmate in our class that runs a restaurant. So he actually brought in that buying experience about supply and demand experience that he brought into one of the assignments that just gave you a different outlook. It's not that the greatest learning experience that I've actually learned within the classes were not the sports related topics or the sports related experiences that came in. It was the outside of the box type experiences that you would have to have when you go into the real world to start thinking outside of the box. So sometime when you're talking about a sports problem, it may be resolved in an area that's in a financial realm, or in the rest, in this case, the restaurant realm, that gave a great experience to our discussions and our topics.
Good to know. One of the key things we stress here is that experience is going to play a big factor or a big role in the student success, even through the application process, because we do consider work experience a great deal in terms of our selection process. But aside from that, what experience and what knowledge can you contribute to the classroom? So that's really good to know about, you interacting with that individual and hearing about that person's, I guess, supply and demand issue. Now, the great thing that you said is it's not always a sport related problem or issue. Like you said, it could be sport related, but like you said, the solution could come from another arena as well. So that's really impressive to hear. This is this is actually a very good question. So online learning is a little bit different from a brick and mortar setting. The key thing about online learning that I think is so important is the fact that students are now actually in the workplace while in school. So in undergrad, you kind of remember the days you were, you go to school every day, but you're not actually in your field. You wait 4 years, graduate, and then you tackle your field. Today, you're in the classroom. So what are some of the things that you've learned, that particular day in your class that you could actually take to your workplace and make a practical application of what you studied earlier that day?
I'm in a great situation. I've done a lot of stuff with the NFL, Major League Baseball, and like I said, I run a nonprofit 501c3 nonprofit youth sports organization. So I actually said this day one when I started class, I can't wait to get to the sponsorship and marketing classes because I needed to find, in my real world, find sponsors for my kids. So when I got to the sponsorship class, which is probably maybe my fourth or fifth class, the application and the concepts that I was able to learn there was a great opportunity for me to transfer that over into my youth sports program. I've actually had a sponsorship with Academy Sports and Outdoors, which is a big box store, a big sporting goods store in the southern region of the states. And to be able to take the information I learned and kind of work my work my presentation a little better, fine-tune my presentation, really helped out with me landing a longer term for my sponsorship. And then on the other side of it, I actually have a presentation next week at a board meeting with USA Football. And in my public relations class, I worked on a project for the NFL dealing with public relations and crisis campaigns, those type of things. So in that public relations class, I'm actually able to take out some information that I'll be using in a presentation on next week. As a matter of fact, this weekend I have to compile everything together. But it was a great thing. The studies that we had, the projects, and actually the discussions we had in that public relations class has really made my presentation a whole lot stronger based on me relying back on or thinking back on those concepts. And I was like, wait, let me go grab my textbook because I know I talked about this in the class discussion. So that I'm fortunate enough to be in a position that those classes really helped me in some real world situations that I'm actually using right now, applying it right now. Like I said, my presentation next week is based on some information that I gained out of my public relations class with that I just taken.
Wow, that's amazing. I'd be interested to hear how that turns out, but that's really amazing. I really love to hear when you're basically you're seeing the fruits of the time you devoted to your
Yeah,
program.
no, I really am.
So that's really impressive. Thank you so much. So let's continue to progress on just a little bit. Now let's talk about how did you manage your time going through your program? One of the things I know that's so important to our students is, it's difficult when you have to manage your personal life, your professional life, but now you have to factor in academia as well. And one of the key things about our programs is, although they're still online, they're still pretty demanding. So Leroy, can you tell us about how you were able to work your time?
No, they really are demanding. They're not pretty. They really are demanding because you're actually getting assignments that instead of you sitting in a class, like I said, 2 days out of the week or 3 days out of the week, you're getting your assignments, you're getting your syllabus at the beginning of the class, and you're kind of seeing the demands. And I understand why, because they want to make sure that this online program, the online degree that you get, is not something that you just pay for, that you really are learning the topics and really understanding the concepts. So that the time that you put in it is going to be tested. It's going to be in the assignment. They're going to figure it out in assignments. But time management is the biggest thing, and that's not just in this program here. Anything you do in life, if you don't have your time management down, you're going to fail. But if you can successfully manage your time, you will have success in the UOnline program and anything else. My biggest thing is, like I told you, I found free days. Sunday afternoons was my free day to prepare for the week. So the time that I used for preparation was really full heavy on that Sunday, and then any time that I was able to steal within the week, if it was 1 hour here or on a lunch break on Tuesday or on Wednesday when I got home at night, an hour before I go to bed, I was able to utilize that. But again, the biggest thing was actually having that real chunk of time that I said, this is my study time. And this is what when I first applied for the program, the first thing they said is the first assessment that I had to do was based on how would I schedule my time out. And it really helped me understand because I'd been out of college for 24 years. So coming into a graduate program, I was still kind of nervous about getting back into a routine of studying and a routine of coursework. So, but that time management assessment and making me sit down and create a journal of how I would do my study time and giving me the suggestion that you needed at least 4 to 6 hours a week to be able to study on the program really helped me understand ahead of time and then get ahead of it and not get bogged down afterwards and trying to figure out how I was going to do this or how I was going to do that. The preparation work was laid for me, and it was pretty good.
Okay, perfect. Now that's aside from the time management piece, we actually got a question that says, do you think you received a fair amount of time to complete each assignment?
Yes, yes. The assignments were with enough time, especially the discussion assignments, because it was really a discussion. So you had to really think on how your discussion was going to go, and it was really something pretty quick. The following is, it was no more than two. You had no more than 2 to 3 assignments per week. So it wasn't like every day you had an assignment. You actually had time in between. So it was time within the assignments where you can actually do it. Discipline side of it as far as you reading, because it is a lot of reading that you're going to be facing because it's a graduate level program, and the professors told us that even when we were kind of complaining about some of the reading or how we did the assignments, the professors reminded us that we're on a graduate level. We're no longer on the undergraduate level, so they expect the same level, and that's where I tell you they treat you no different than anybody that's in the classroom. One of our classes that we were doing a project in, the same class that was taking it on campus was doing the same project. So it was no preferential treatment. We were assigned the same assignment. They were assigned the same assignment. It's our responsibility to manage our time. Now, they may have met in the classroom more, but they still had the same time frame to be able to do the assignment as we did.
Wow, good to know. Good to know. All right, perfect. That you explained it perfectly. Thank you so much. Now, this picture here is actually the support team. And Leroy, maybe you can talk about this as well, because we all had an opportunity to meet you at the gathering before your commencement ceremony. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, there's 2 people on there on the picture that really, I mean, the reason I'm here is because of them. When I first decided to do the program, I really wasn't looking to go back to school. I was actually online doing some stuff for work, and an ad popped up, and I clicked off of it, and the ad popped up again. So I clicked on the ad, and I said, well, let me go and try it. And I called in, and this was on a Monday, or this was on a Monday morning, and I started talking about I wanted to go to school. Like I said, I never had any financial aid, so I didn't know anything how financial aid worked. I went to undergraduate on a scholarship, so I didn't know how financial aid worked as far as on the graduate level, and the fact that I hadn't been back to school in 24 years, hadn't been in school for 24 years. My advisor was the greatest thing that ever happened to me in that phone call. I don't know how the phone calls were assigned, but when I called Lynn, the guy that answered the phone for me walked me through the process so smoothly that I'm telling you, Jonathan, I was in school before I even knew I was in school. The process was too easy. I had to ask him. I called him back the next day and I said, "Are you sure you told me right that I was actually in school?" I turned in my paperwork, did the forms, and told me, had my actual requirements done. I had my transcript sent over, and by that Friday, I was actually in school, ready to take classes that next week. And I was like, wait, I don't know if I really want this yet. but but Miss Pam came in. He passed me on to the next person. That once you got into school, you got your real advisor. That was just your enrollment advisor. And then once you got into school, you got your actual academic advisor. And she just laid it down and was real world experience on, we got you, whatever you need. You do not have to worry. let's go, let's get your degree. And those two people walked me from writing the first line on a piece of paper to walking across the stage, and made my experience to the point that, like I said, I was in school and didn't even know it, and now I'm graduating and it's over with already. So the time was really spent great with those two advisors, like I said, from the first step to the final step. And it was because of the support.
All right, so that's really impressive to hear. So Leroy, you started school back in 2015, correct?
2016. Yeah, spring
2016.
20.
So
Yeah.
spring 2016. Okay, so the process has actually gotten a lot better for
Wow.
incoming students. So imagine your experience back then, and the team has grown now. So not only will students have a direct advisors from the day they decide they want to start the program, but going through the life of their program, not only will they have, like you said, an academic advisor, but they will also have a student advocate. And aside from just that, it's an online program, and one of the things we anticipate is that, you know, problems will arise. So we make sure that there's a person available 24/7 to address those problems 365 days a year, because the last thing we want is it's the 11th hour, you're trying to submit something and it's not working. We want to make sure someone is there to support you in that sense. Now, Leroy, another question just came in and says, on a personal level, do you think you may have lost touch with close friends while you worked on your graduate degree? And I think that's more a question of, you know, how demanding was it? Did you lose your social life in that sense?
No, actually, I have a nephew that plays football for TCU. So every weekend I was at his games. Now I had to take my computer with me and my books with me if I had an assignment to do that weekend. But I still went to every one of his football games every weekend. Traveled from Louisiana to Dallas or Kansas, wherever they played at, and didn't miss a beat. I mean, I left out on a Friday most weekends and came back on a Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, and didn't miss a beat. And I was still able, like I said, I was still able to do my regular job, my 9 to 5 job, and then also still run my youth program. So I still was able, again, time management is the key to it. If you prepare ahead of time the things that you know that's due, and that's the great thing about the class. You get the class, whenever you're in a class, it opens up 1 week ahead of time when the class, well actually it's probably about 4 or 5 days before the class is actually available. So you get to see your syllabus for that whole class process, the whole 7 weeks. So you kind of understand the demand that's going to be required, what weeks are going to be more tough weeks if you had an actual group project or something that's going on. But most of the classes, they're structured. If you have an assignment on Tuesday the first week, you're going to have an assignment on Tuesday every week throughout the classroom. So you can kind of manage that. It's not a change week by week. Once you walk into the classroom, I know I have an assignment on a Tuesday. I know I have a test that's due on Saturday. So every Tuesday and Saturday, those are the assignments and stuff that you have to prepare for. So the preparation ahead of time is really the key. And like I said, I still had my real job. I still had my nonprofit, and every weekend during the fall, I actually traveled to my nephew's games.
Wow, that's important. Now, I do want to say this as an advisor here as well. I do get asked that question quite a bit. One of the key things we stress throughout the admissions, I guess, consultation is that there has to be a support system at home. So we're going to take care of all of your academic needs, but there has to be a support system at home. So if you live a very busy lifestyle, personally and professionally, you will have to make some changes to accommodate the third piece being your academics. So in Leroy's case, one of his sacrifices had to be that, hey, you know, I know I'm going to travel over to TCU, so I may have to take my laptop and my books because I have an assignment that's due. Now, what Leroy said is very important as well. He mentioned something that I want to talk about really quickly. In every class, we want to make sure you're so successful that we give students access to their classes 4 days in advance. So classes start on Monday. that Wednesday prior or the Thursday prior, we're going to give you access to that class so you can dive into that syllabus, get started on that first week's assignment, and that kind of gives you some leverage to be a week ahead in your class, especially when it comes to the reading and how demanding your readings
Yeah.
can be, like
Yeah.
Leroy said. So we want to make sure you're ahead, and if you're a week ahead, if there's a stumbling block along the way, that allows you, it gives you some time there where you can stumble and still be in pace with your classmates. So I don't think that would be a big struggle. So Leroy, thank you so much for answering that question. You nailed it exactly how I would answer it as well. So question time. So Leroy, a couple of the questions that have been coming in that really weren't so much about your experience, but more so about your onboarding process. I just want to ask you a couple of those questions really quickly. One of the questions were, how easy is it to apply for financial aid? Could you discuss that?
Yeah, no, I was scared of that as well. That was one of my biggest fears coming in. Like I said, throughout my undergraduate, I was on scholarship, so I never really saw applications for financial aid. I never did have to do any FAFSA for anything. I had to go onto the government website. But my advisor, my actual enrollment advisor, sent me a link, and he said, simply, Leroy, just go to this link and fill out your information. It's as simple as filling out an application for a credit card. I'm put it towards that. It's simple as filling out an application as far as a credit card. And then the actual government side of it, the FAFSA side of it, does all the rest. If you've been filling out taxes, they pull out the previous year. Like when I applied, they pulled out my 2014 taxes and use for my 2016 application. And before I was able to hit enter almost, when I hit enter, they said it was approved and everything was processed. My enrollment advisor gave me the code that I needed to put the University of Miami in as far as the school that I wanted to send the information to. And like I said, that was on a Monday. By Wednesday, I had all my financial aid was approved and was submitted to the University of Miami. By that Thursday, I had all my letters of recommendations were sent in, and then by that Friday, the the academic staff had already reviewed my application process, and I was in school. So the financial aid side of it is, like I said, it is simple as filling out a credit card application. Your name, pertinent information, your name, where you live, that's your social security number, and then the federal government does the processing from there.
And Leroy, actually another question just came in. Give me 1 second here.
Okay.
Oh, it's a really good question. It says, what is the process as far as obtaining your books, study materials, research materials while taking online classes?
Well, the same thing that when the class opens up that 4 days, you really have before then to see what materials are required for the class. You kind of get an idea of what classes you're going to get from the sports management side of it. We kind of walked through the 601s on down, so the numbers went from 1, 2, 3. So it was kind of easy for us. But inside the site, once you applied and approved and you're a part of the program, inside of the actual U of M site, online site, there's a place where you can go and see what materials you'll need for the classroom, whether it's computer equipment or the computer software that the university gives you as far as being a student, and then also the list of books that are required for each class. You probably will only see whatever classes are offered for that semester and the semester right after that, but that gives you ample enough time to be able to get your books. Amazon was a great place for me to be able to get my books from. I actually had some, and I'm a book person, so I bought every book, and I like to keep it. I build a library. I'm big on you judge a man based on how his library is. So if I was going to be a sports person, I wanted to keep all my sports books. But I had classmates who actually just rented their textbooks. Who rented the textbooks for the semester, and that was it. They weren't big on keeping the books for after the classes. So they rented it through Amazon, and then Amazon does the whole, you can do an online book or you can do the paper copy of the book. Some rented the paper copy, some just bought the online version of it from Amazon and read everything through their Kindle. Comes in a PDF copy. Again, I was a big book person, so I went to Amazon and I bought my books, and through buying the books from Amazon, they gave me that actual soft copy that I can use until my book came in. They gave me the first couple of chapters, which covered any assignment that I may have missed. But I've always did my books probably 2 or 3 weeks before class was over with for that next class, because I knew that information ahead of time.
Perfect. Actually, you actually answered the next question, and it was, are books only available from the University of Miami bookstore? So no, to answer that question, like Leroy said, we'll provide you the ISBN number. Like Leroy said, we provide that information 2 terms in advance. So if you're starting for the fall term, we know what book you're going to use for what class in the fall. So we'll send you that information. We'll send you the author, the ISBN number, the edition, the estimated cost, which is actually very important because we don't want you to overpay for your materials. So you'll have that information in advance. You can rent it, like Leroy said, from whatever source you want to. You can purchase the hardback copy or the ebook version. It's totally up to you. Some students, while we're on this topic, we recommend subscriptions to a few journals. We make sure you get all this information way ahead of time before your class starts, so that way, once that class opens, or even when you gain access to that class the 4 days in advance, you're ready to hit the ground running. So that covers that. So Leroy, last question for you. And it says here, how accessible are your academic advisors? So I guess in your case, did you find any difficulty getting in touch with your advisor?
She became a friend as the same as one of my classmates. At any time, she would tell you, pick up the phone, call me. Don't hesitate. No sense you struggling, and I can help you. So that was one of the great things. Like I said, my enrollment advisor and then my academic advisor made life so much easier for me. I mean, it was really sunny skies and blue waters dealing with them at the University of Miami.
Wow. All right. Thank you so much. And just so you guys know, like I said earlier, the process has changed a little bit, and the program is growing significantly. In Leroy's case, the School of Education, which offers the Master's in Sport Administration online, this program is extremely popular. So in their case, not only do they have an academic advisor, but they also have a student advocate to tackle some of the simpler things that they may not need help from their academic advisor with. So rest assured, you will have a long line of people backing you as you go through your program. So I just want to say thank you.
I do want to mention because
sure.
The technical support, because you're online, of course you have that big fear of any kind of technical problems. The technical support is not calling India and there's somebody talking to you trying to walk through it. There's a person on campus that when you call in, the call is directly answered. You get the support you need because of the importance of your class and the immediance of you having to get your stuff in. The support, the technical support was great coming in, helping out. So we really had a great experience. I know I did. I had a technical problem, and I'm an IT person, and I had a technical problem that I was able to call in and get immediate support for. And I had never had that when I called Microsoft on some of my major projects that I'm doing here. Well, I'm spending real big money on hundreds of thousands of dollars. Cisco called me back 2 days later, but the support that I received here was really great, technical support-wise.
Well, that's amazing to hear. Hey, Leroy, thank you so much for your time. I just want to thank everyone for logging into the call this evening. Classes for the fall session starts on September 4th. The firm application deadline is August 12th. And like I said, all you have to do to at least get the conversation started is fill out an application at www.miami.edu/online. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Johnson. You too, guys.
Thank you.